Welcome, friends. Welcome, family. What's up, Ma? Who to a Thursday edition of the Watch List. I'm that guy. Which side is it? I'm that guy in the logo, Jayar Jackson. What's up with you guys? We have a big slate of news today to get to. In fact, there's tons. There's lots of elements to it. You guys know I like layers to the story. So let's just jump right in because I've got someone that's going to help us with those layers. Jackson White joins us for another edition of Jackson and Jackson. Is it Thursdays or is it Mondays? No, sometimes it's Wednesdays. Sometimes it's on a Friday. It doesn't matter. You can always.
It don't. Any day after Jackson and Jackson, it's gonna be a good day. So that's what we're here for. And Christmas is, like literally days away. So we just here to make things better.
I was just saying that the other day. It's like you're at the last couple weeks of your in school and you're like, I'm about to take a break, or right before finals, you're like, knock these finals out and I can go party. I got like another week and a couple days left, and I'm trying not to think about it because this is gonna make me just start checking out. It's just the way these things are, man.
Yeah.
You gotta focus in. Let's focus in. By the way, Jax, you can catch him over on Rebel HQ. He's a contributor there, and also Paper and Politics podcast as well. Check him out. He's building something great over there. See what he's got to say. Let's see what he's got to say about this first story, though. There was a hearing yesterday on the Club Q shooting that killed multiple people there, and there was testimonies from folks that experienced the disaster that happened there and the trauma. Let's start here.
Hate rhetoric from politicians, religious leaders, and media outlets is at the root of the attacks like at Club Q, and it needs to stop now. Rhetoric that makes people less than for being different. Rhetoric that threatens to silence what sports we can play, what bathrooms we can use, how we define our family, and who I can marry. We need elected leaders to demonstrate language that reflects love and understanding, not hate and fear.
Yeah, there was a Republican in the room, and that during the hearing, James Comer, who is poised to become the next chairman of this committee, he said that while Republicans condemn this horrific attack, he criticized Democrats for holding this hearing. In fact, saying that Democrats are using today's hearing to, quote, blame Republicans for this horrendous crime. Democrats pushed back. They said this was a hearing that was designed to show that these attacks against LGBTQ individuals are not isolated, and that what happened at Club Q is a part of a larger systemic problem in American society.
There was that testimony yesterday at the House Oversight Committee on that shooting at the Club Q in Colorado that took 5 people's lives and injured 19 others. There was more testimonies, specifically in this case from one of the bartenders that was there that saw the disaster that happened, and death was just supposed to be coming his way next. Let's look at what he had to say in this devastating situation.
I was bartending that evening when the attack began. I felt more terrified than I ever have before in my life. I ran for my life that night and hid, praying and hoping the violence would end. When I stared down the barrel of that gun, I realized I stood no chance against a weapon of that power, magazine capacity, and seemingly automatic firing rate. While I prepared for my life to end in that moment, I prayed, I panicked, and I prayed some more. God must have heard my prayers because 2 brave men stopped the shooter moments before he would have inevitably found me. I saw my friend lying on the floor, bleeding out, knowing there was little to no chance of surviving that bullet wound. I had to tell him goodbye while I continued to fear for my life, not knowing if the attack was truly over. I can still hear the rapid firing of bullets today. It's a sound I may never forget. It's a sound I hope no one here or anywhere else in this country has to hear.
Multiple people that testified, of course, laid some of the blame on the rhetoric that Republicans and conservatives like to say and push their supporters to hate certain individuals that were in that particular bar that night. And they weren't too happy about those characterizations or the pushback on their rhetoric. It's really weird how that works. But if you listen to what that bartender then said, what he had to go through, how he was ready to die, but then was still hoping he wouldn't, at the last second saw his life saved, maybe you could care if you paid attention and considered him a human being. Instead, people like James Comer there, who's a Republican representative in the House, he wanted nothing to do with it. In fact, many of them there wanted to deflect that blame. Republicans on the Oversight Committee had a different villain in mind to blame for this whole thing, for not just the Club Q shooting, but for the fact that for the past 2 years, we have seen record levels of fatal violence against trans and gender non-conforming people. They pointed fingers at Democrats. You're not surprised by that. Protests against police brutality and mostly non-existent police defunding. course, just hit the same things every time. I'm surprised they didn't say CRT and Antifa, but there's more. Here's where James Comer came in. He noted that the alleged shooter was no stranger to law enforcement, having been arrested in 2021 after allegedly threatening to blow up a neighborhood and kill family members. The charges were later dropped, and law enforcement declined to use Colorado's red flag laws to take the guns away from the suspect. Probably something he doesn't want anyway. These Republicans that are against any kind of gun control. More, there's just one glaring problem with this argument. Colorado Springs has not defunded their police department and at the behest of Black Lives Matter activists, nor is it controlled by Democrats. Both the mayor and district attorney of Colorado Springs are Republicans. And in fact, the city has actually increased police funding for 2023. Good job there. Because also we heard that Joe Biden, the president, that guy, that super lib that conservatives say so, he also said, we want to fund the police. So that lie has been debunked multiple times, but that's not gonna stop them from telling it more and more. More about that whole lie about defunding the police in general. Even beyond Colorado Springs, there's little reason to think that police defunding is shaping crime. As the Center for American Progress reported in July, Democrat-run cities spend more money on policing than Republican-run cities. And of the 25 largest cities, 20 saw increases in their police budgets from fiscal year 19 to fiscal year 2022. The slogan defund the police that was bandied by Black Lives Matter protests in 2020 never really took off with Democratic politicians and certainly hasn't had much impact on actual police funding, but that isn't gonna stop the lies. Here's more folks talking about what happened and the experiences since. Here's the co-owner, Matthew Hayes from Club Q, talking about the types of messages they've received. Of course, people were murdered, but they still get this. Watch.
We have received hundreds of hate comments. I cannot read them all, but I'm going to read you a few examples. I woke up to the wonderful news that 5 mentally unstable faggots and lesbians and 18 injured. The only thing I'm mad about is that the faggots had courage to subdue the wonderful killer. I hope more shootings happen. Have a blessed day. The shooter was doing God's work. 5 less faggots, not enough. Those that stopped him are the devil. All gays should die. This is hate.
Apologies for that language there, you guys. That is the messages that they're receiving after people were murdered for being who they are. So Jackson, they may want to deflect, specifically James Comer, they may want to deflect and say it's defunding the police, it's Black Lives Matter, it's those Democrat-run cities that's soft on crime, but none of it makes any sense. So he's only speaking to the people that just want to hear what he has to say.
Well, I mean, their deflection at this point is pointless, given the fact that we live in a time where pretty much everything we do is recorded in some way. It was just the other day. Actually, I was on Boss with Nina Turner yesterday, and we was covering Jesse Waters, hyper focusing on, a couple $1,000s that people in the trans community can get in San Francisco. Like there's a specific program for 55 people or 120 people. And they're like, this is totally impacting the whole country, bro. And then you got people obviously like Ben Shapiro who are like hyper focused and obsessed with, same-sex marriage being wrong. Steven Crowder, the rest of Fox News. I mean, pretty much any right-wing figure you can think of, let alone the policies that are passed. So there's absolutely no questioning it. And then also when they're like, oh, the Democrats just politicized this, that would be valid if like mass shootings happened like hardly ever. But the fact that they happen so often that not only can we barely keep up with them, but often the country just stops paying attention to them because there's so much other stuff going on. We've become accustomed to them. So the old spew that you're giving just doesn't work anymore. So there's no denying it, and they know it. So that's really, that people continue to die, people continue to get massacred because gun sales. That's it.
They're answering, of course, the folks that paid them to be this way. And also, if they don't have a fearful voting bloc, then what else they have? But they've pushed it so far that it's turned violent, and they don't want to take the responsibility for that either. Now, if they flip on this and say, yo, we're not talking about murdering folks, especially folks for being who they are, their people will turn on them, and actually they won't get reelected. They'll probably get primaried by more Marjorie Taylor Greenes and Matt Gaetzes and Lauren Boeberts of the world. But they're already them. One more little piece here, graphic 7 here, you guys, because they can deny it, But stats and numbers in reality are one of those things that are really hard to push back on. In August, the Human Rights Campaign reported that the average number of tweets per day using slurs such as groomer and pedophile in relation to LGBTQ+ people surged by 406% in the month after Florida's bill was passed. The top 500 tweets leveling false grooming allegations were viewed 72 million times. And since then, Elon Musk has taken over Twitter, reinstating thousands of accounts that were banned for hate speech and disinformation. Again, it happens every time there's an election, every time there's a midterm election. There was the fear of the Muslims coming up from the South. There was also fear of all those immigrants coming from the South with caravans. There was always issues with something that they talk about as we lead into an election, and then after whatever happens, they kind of chill on that. But the supporters who've been riled up and have nothing else to do except follow the orders of their generals, they continue to go this route because they believe it. These folks are actors. James Comer's an actor. He's trying to get more money, more position, and more power. And he's got his people running up, murdering folks, and he's applauding it by not saying where the problem is coming from. Let's go to this. Yeah, go, Jackson.
Oh, just finally, well, my last comment on this is just conservatives, especially right now through the Republican Party in the country, they're hyper focused on their ideal of what society and humanity is, man and woman, man being in a superior position and all the isms going throughout society, and people in the LGBTQ community threaten that worldview. It's really not any more complicated than that, and that's where the fear comes from. That's why they're not focused on real policy issues, because they're too busy battling the cognitive dissonance.
It's laziness. It's an easy, low-hanging fruit to attack and attach yourself to get to generate some support. It's really easy to hate. It's really, really simple to hate. And we heard Candace Owens say the other day, they give me the heebie-jeebies, and that's why we should make a policy of discrimination because of your heebie-jeebies. Sounds like a good old American history. We've always done things. We talked about Elon Musk at the end of there. He's got other problems, but I don't think he really thinks that they're problems. So let's go straight into this.
Tonight, Elon Musk. The New York Times reporting tonight that Twitter has stopped paying rent on its offices in San Francisco, or in fact, its global offices, and in fact is considering not paying severance packages to former employees. Musk tonight also refusing to pay a nearly $200,000 bill for private charter flights made the week of his Twitter takeover. It comes as Musk shared this tweet. Let me show it to you. It says, follow, and then a rabbit-faced emoji. Now, that is a known QAnon symbol.
He's just having fun on his new toy. Elon Musk, as revealed there by CNN, is apparently not paying rent. He's also trying to skirt on a private jet debts that he's got. Multiple things that he's dealing with his money to cut. Also, no more severance pay for those folks that he's firing at random at will whenever he feels like it as well. Sounds like he's in some trouble. Sounds like he's one of those folks who's squatting in a new building and maybe we should kick his ass out. I don't know. I mean, that's what happens with most folks when they don't pay their rent. Fox News even had to acknowledge it, or did they? Look at the way that they tried to spin this whole thing from his rent payments, but also what he's doing. And it's all pathetic, but somehow they tried to make it sound good. Watch that.
Elon Musk cleaning house at Twitter headquarters, literally. He's now holding an auction, putting several expensive items from the company's San Francisco headquarters up for bid. The company reportedly behind on rent. Some of the items include, that giant Twitter bird statue, large sculpture in the symbol of an at, and a $20,000 espresso machine. Every bid just starting at just $25.
You think if Larry from Oklahoma was getting kicked out of his house and he started selling his coffee maker and his couch and stuff to try and have some kind of ends, that Fox News would be like, yeah, look at this great American getting kicked out of his house. He's just behind on his rent, but look at these things he's selling. He's cleaning house. That's the characterization. But the one thing that stuck out was he's behind on his rent. Why is he behind on his rent? He keeps getting introduced as the richest man in the world. Why is he behind on his rent? People over at Tesla are wondering the same damn thing, except they're concerned about Tesla. Those investors, those people with the money, they have questions. Here's more. Here's what one person said. They said, there's no Tesla CEO today, is what Gary Black said. He's a managing partner for the Future Fund LLC, which owns roughly $50 million worth of Tesla. He tweeted that on Monday. There's no Tesla CEO. Mr. Black then went on to say, the market voted today that the Tesla brand has been negatively impacted by the Twitter drama. Where before EV buyers were proud to drive their Teslas to their friends or show off Teslas in their driveways, now the Twitter controversy is hurting Tesla's brand equity. I actually wondered this. Actually, I want to ask you that first, Jackson. There's a lot more to the Tesla stuff and also what Elon's up to, but I'm curious, just that point right there. I wasn't planning on jumping in at this point, but I wondered that with Tesla drivers in general, if they're like, because there's a lot of them out here in California and plenty are libs, and I wonder what they feel about their purchase right now, or at least the car they're driving.
Well, whether it be Tesla or anything else that Elon Musk has ever been a part of, the reality is that the last 20 years of him pretending to be, like Tony Stark, neutron brain boy, are crumbling. Because we live in modern times, and just that's typically how things go. The things that he tweets, follow the white rabbit. The other day, like the woke mind virus must be defeated, must be eliminated. Like, he's a dork, he's a loser. And nothing he's ever said about himself practically is true, even the degrees that he's had. So I remember before I even looked into like really what was up with this guy years ago, my skepticism of him initially was, how is he managing all of these companies at the same time? We all only have 24 hours in a day. And then lo and behold, it's like, oh, well, he's completely full of you know what.
And he's using 20 hours of those a day to be a clown on Twitter. Sorry.
Yeah. I mean, he's just ridiculous. And it's all coming to light. He's like, this dude can't even run Twitter. It shouldn't he have even bought it in the first place. And then within that same time period, he's like, oh, Neuralink's coming in 6 months, even though animals, they can't even make them work on animals. Oh, I'd totally put that in my own child, bro. Like, no, you wouldn't. And then the Tesla Semi, which he said in 2017 was supposed to be able to go 1,000,000 miles without having to recharge. Turns out it's 400 miles. That's quite a difference. Like that's so that's the reality of it. Like, he's just a liar, and it's come to light.
It's why when people get put on pedestals like that, the whole point is to make sure you don't question or see them as the normal person that they are, or potentially, as you called him, the loser that he is, and not really controlling or doing things the way that he professes to do them. He always makes these declarations, and how often do they really come true? But that goes off to the side because there's the next one and the next one and the next one. It's like a constant.
Exactly. And that my last thing is exactly what you said. This won't stop. Like, it's like every time like some huge scandal's brought to light, it's like, oh, well, we'll stop, or some huge world war. It's like, oh, this will be the end of it. Like, no, because people will keep being people.
They will. There's one person over at Tesla that's the money folks again, that's frustrated. Let me read it from this guy. Investor Ross Gerber. He said, he separately tweeted this, he said, there's nothing wrong at Tesla at all. Other than the CEO working at another company, certainly Tesla deserves a focused CEO. It would be helpful to know what Elon's plans are. They might be better off without him making decisions over there. Got to be honest, considering what they're seeing happening at Twitter. Now, again, let's go back to that rent. Let's go back to not paying bills. And I gave that random example of Larry in Oklahoma. Here's an example of an elderly woman in Alabama. She was brought to tears after she was handcuffed, arrested, and put in jail by 2 officers after she failed to pay $77.80 of a trash bill, with her community labeling the act as shameful. Martha Minifield, who's 82 years old, was approached by officers at her home on Sunday. This is a few weeks ago now. The City of Valley Police insisting that the elderly woman had been treated with respect, though. The cuffs, they were so heavy, is what she said, her eyes welling with tears as she spoke of the ordeal. She said that one of the officers told her not to cry while they made the arrest. Good job. How would you feel if they came and arrested your grandma? She asked the officer, who she claims didn't even respond. And lastly, Ms. Minifield told CBS News that she didn't know the bill in question had not been paid, and that she had never received a notice to appear in court. $77.80. I think that bill over at the Twitter headquarters that Musk isn't paying the rent for, they racked up $77 of rent within about 2 to 3 seconds with probably the rate of rent there. So he ain't paying that. Again, according to I think Washington Post and New York Times, one of them reported this. If he's not paying his rent, why not? And if he's not, why isn't anyone doing anything else about it? Just free buildings now? Do we get to go squat in buildings and make homes there? I don't think so. But he's the richest guy in the world. He can do whatever he wants. He doesn't need to spend his money. He's just got tons of it. Let's take our first break through, you guys. A few of your comments, but also when we get back, there's this curious phenomenon happened with cops and fentanyl. I'm not really sure what's happening either, but at least I want to go through it all to see what you guys think about it. Maybe we should have done this before because I want to get y'all's comments on this as well, but maybe we'll jump back to that. But after we come back, we'll do that story and much more. Wrap up this whole show. See you guys in a second.
Welcome to Indisputable. I'm your host, Dr. Rashad Richard. We got a lot happening today. But what do we do on this show? We tell the truth. You know why we tell the truth? Because the truth is simply indisputable.
Rashad, great to be here. Congratulations on the new show. And I gotta let everybody know that Rashad and I go way back.
Here's the pattern that we see in all of these Karen stories. They think they own stuff they do not own. Now, where does that come from? I don't know, maybe slavery. Maybe they think they should still own black people.
This is what happens when Karens weaponize the police.
When you're used to privilege, equality seems like oppression.
It hits you in a certain way when someone is holding you against your will, treating you like you're a criminal and you're an innocent person. This is something that black people face no matter where they are.
A stronger black economy lends itself to a stronger, greater economy. Don't think it's exclusive of you, it's inclusive of you.
What's your beef with critical race theory?
It adds more fuel to the fire of the racist tendencies that we already have.
We have a generation of problem solvers that can remedy the problem if they are properly taught what the problem is.
You know who created redlining in this country? It was the white liberal.
I don't give a damn who created it. If it's a racist policy, Shelley, here's what I don't know. I don't know. See, there you go filibustering, brother. You're scared of this truth, but you're gonna get it, though.
Climate is changing fundamentally, extremely, and non-linearly. It's becoming worse now. It's not when the levees burst that is the problem. It's in the anticipation of that.
So I hope every human being is safe. And by human beings, I do not include multinational corporations, especially the ones that started climate change in the first place.
What we're currently doing right now in cutting emissions is clearly not enough. There will be ramifications to what Trump is doing. I don't want people to suffer, but I feel like there's going to be a lot of suffering because we have an imbecile as our leader.
Watch this, you guys. TYT members, thank you for being there. Eric the Red says, if I don't pay my rent, I'll get thrown out of my home, 100%, or your mortgage, or your car note, or anything like that on your Tesla. Over on Twitch, you guys, Agnostic Sister says, yay, Jackson squared. There's another one. Suckle Dragon says, J and J, get your vaccines. Rye himself says, it's like Jackson, but double. Nice. K, the non-binary dragon, says, I always tell people it starts with hate speech and ends with us dead. As it's a pattern. It's not even a pattern. It's the standard way that we've always done in this country. There's the group that we hate, and always they're supposed to be lesser and lower and non-human, and then therefore you can commit violence against them and cleanse the country. That's where we're going next. By the way, I don't know if you guys heard this. Ken Paxton out in Texas, apparently they're discovering, had collected the names of every trans person, or tried to get the names of every trans person in the state, collected and compiled a list. It's the last time I heard about a leader of a country in this old perspective, collecting lists of certain people that they consider outcasts to society. Just think about that as we go down this route. YouTube, you guys, really fast. YouTube super chats. Raven LaRue says, Jackson and Jackson, beauty overload, can't focus. I think it's more for white. Let's keep it real. And Kevin Bard says, 2 black jacks, no reds.
People love us, man. It's okay. Embrace it.
I'll accept it. You're right.
We got to keep giving them what they want, man.
It has to keep coming. You guys, Jackson will hang on until he blows up or something. Then after that, I'll be on his show. All right, you guys,
man, we gonna keep it going, man.
Let's jump to this next story. It's a cop block. There's been a lot of police stories this week on the show. This particular thing is about them passing the F out. Watch.
You advise possible exposure. Tavares police said they're releasing this difficult footage of an officer who is now doing okay as a warning about how dangerous fentanyl can be. Courtney Sullivan with the Tavares Police Department said Officer Courtney Bannock found drugs on a passenger during a traffic stop Monday night.
She said she just barely opened it, saw that it was, narcotics, closed it quickly.
Sullivan said Bannock wore gloves as she always did. The officers agreed to test the substance back at the department, trying to avoid exposure because it was windy.
Next thing you know, she was trying to key up on the radio, and you could hear in the radio traffic almost like she was choking.
There's some body cam footage from Florida cops as one of their officers apparently overdosed a bit on fentanyl from handling it. There's been stories about this all over the country from police officers talking about this, or potentially overdosing from handling, taking a look at, inhaling some of this from windy conditions, as they said here. But there's some other experts in the field, medical experts, that say, hold on, calm down. This is where the conflict comes, you guys. Let's see where we fall on this. The scientific literature shows definitively that brief contact with fentanyl is not sufficient for it to enter the bloodstream and cross the blood-brain barrier to cause such a rapid overdose. That's what these medical experts are saying. All the way back in 2017, America's leading toxicological societies noticed that the spread of these viral exposure stories and tried to put them to rest. There have since been countless fact checks and scientific debunkings by major news outlets, including one from the Times' editorial board, the New York Times editorial board. One scientist even experienced this kind of exposure and had his own story to tell from that. Now, last month, this 33-year-old clinical toxicologist and emergency medicine pharmacist named Ryan Feldman co-published a case study about the time he accidentally spilled a mammoth dose of pure liquid fentanyl all over himself at work. He says he simply washed it off with no adverse effects. As a matter of fact, there's that case study, the headline from that case study, at least, that he said all this went down. There was an accidental occupational exposure to a large volume of liquid fentanyl on a compromised skin barrier. That means maybe there was a cut on his skin somewhere where it did hit, so there was possibility for it to even enter his system immediately, not just on the surface. But he said he just washed it off, bro. So the other part about this, one other mention of folks and police officers across the country that have been exposed to this and passing out on camera happened in San Diego. This one I think was a little bit more popular. People had seen this one. If you guys remember this is what happened in San Diego to a cop.
You're okay. Don't be sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about. I got you, okay? I'm not gonna let you die. I'm not gonna let you die. It's okay, just focus on your breathing, okay? Focus on it. I need Narcan! I'm Corporal Scott Crane from the San Diego County Sheriff's Department. My trainee was exposed to fentanyl and nearly died. He found a white substance that he suspected was drugs.
Yeah, it's a powder.
It could be cocaine or fentanyl. It tested positive for fentanyl. That stuff's no joke, dude. It's super dangerous. I was like, hey, dude, too close. You can't get that close to it. A couple seconds later, he took some steps back and he collapsed.
I don't remember anything after that.
Just breathe, buddy. Trying to get him to focus on just breathing. And because, that fentanyl, you can't breathe.
It was in an instant. It's as though my lungs just locked up. I couldn't breathe. I was trying to gasp for breath, but I couldn't breathe at all.
You're okay. Don't be sorry. There's nothing to be sorry about.
So that dramatic video was, of course, like you said, put forward by the San Diego cops. But there's more details from this because there was that pushback that came and they were appalled by it. Sheriff Bill Gore said on Monday that the dramatic video his department publicized last week, intending to highlight the danger of fentanyl to law enforcement, was produced without any input from physicians. Let's jump down to graphic 7 because a couple hundred medical professionals did sign a petition for a retraction of that video. And so the officers were upset by that. They said, I saw the video. Everybody that saw the video saw him seize up, go down, fall on his head, is what Gore said. The drugs tested for fentanyl. It was classic signs of fentanyl overdose. That's why we called it that. And the sheriff said he was shocked to hear this pushback from toxicologists and members of the medical community. Gore pledged to release the full, unedited, body-worn video of the incident to seek medical records of the deputy. So first here, I'm curious what your thoughts are first, because there's more from the medical community that's talking about what it is that they're possibly experiencing, since they don't really believe that it could be from such a quick exposure, even just from touching or looking at some fentanyl. Jackson, what are your thoughts?
Well, I mean, there's no doubt that fentanyl is an extremely dangerous drug, but if it was that toxic to the touch, it would be like used in like chemical warfare or something. It wouldn't be something people would really be able to consume in any form at all. Typically, you know, people inject it, some people snort it. But it wouldn't be something people would be able to do whatsoever if it was that kind of toxic. And also, you know, like I grew up and we all grew up with the DARE program and, you know, just the general premise that drugs are incredibly dangerous. Anything that's abused could be incredibly dangerous. And especially if like opiates are incredibly addictive. Well, other drugs that aren't opiates, you know what I'm saying? Like a lot of people, they'll try them and be like, oh, this isn't that big of a deal. Like, I mean, maybe crack, yeah, that's something else. But like people learn through experience that, oh, I can do this drug and it's not killing me. So really this type of propaganda with just making it like that overblown, practically it can be used to more heavily legally crack down on it. Like if there's fentanyl, it's like, there's no question here. Actually, a friend of mine in St. Louis recently got arrested. He got caught with cocaine and they said there's fentanyl in it. So with this type of propaganda like that, it can be like, oh, fentanyl, there's no question. There's absolutely, you know what I mean? When laws, yeah, go ahead. Yeah, so it's just like there's practicality behind it, you know. So,
well, I wonder what the reality is behind it. Let's go to this graphic 8 here, because this is what they're considering as potentially happening to these folks. Some psychologists suggested a kind of mass psychogenic illness is afoot, or a form of conversion disorder, neurological symptoms without a clear physical cause, or potentially simple panic attacks. As simple as that. Police officers have been told by authorities, including the Drug Enforcement Administration, that microscopic amounts of fentanyl can be deadly. They're taught to fear this substance. Their bodies may react accordingly, exhibiting symptoms like rapid breathing that are indicative of distress and panic. They also went on to say that if someone is overdosing from something like fentanyl, it doesn't usually put you in like a seizure type of state. It's more like a dozing off, where then eventually your body does shut down and you cease breathing. Many times people ODing like that is what they're pointing out. And this just looks a lot different. I don't know, man. You guys could discuss this in the comments, but I'm not an expert on drug use or the effects of all this stuff. So I can only go off what experts say, just saying. And we can look into that deeper. But since we're on subject of police, let's go to what we usually see them doing on camera. This happened to another Army veteran. We've done 2 from yesterday, another today. It's a disgusting video here. It's a graphic in this brutal beating that they administered on this man. Let's jump into this video.
Stand up, turn around. Step out of the car. Step out of the car, man.
Hands behind my back.
Yes, you're gonna be detained in handcuffs.
Oh, no, I'm not.
We're about to stand. You are.
Hey, put your hands off me. Fighting me, bro.
He's fighting. He's assaulting me.
I'm not assaulting, bro.
He's kicking me.
Airport Road, inventory.
I got ready. Get us some units, code 3.
I'm not hitting my dog.
Airport Road, inventory.
Put your hands behind your back. You're under arrest.
Code 3.
All right, let me get up. Let me get up.
That gang of Colorado Springs police officers attacked Army National Guard veteran Dalvin Gadsden, and there is the body cam footage of it happening. You know, he hit them with that very dangerous and aggressive phrase, no, I'm not, because that's all it takes apparently to jump on someone. That was the first half, but here's a little bit more of the back end when they got him on the ground and decided to go ahead and continue beating the hell out of him, because that's good police work. Watch that.
Bro, I love y'all. Put your hands behind your back. All right, bro. Flip over now. All right, bro. All right. Put your hands behind your back. I'm your stomach now. What the f***? No! All right. What the f*** did I do, bro? I ain't fighting. I don't care. All right, get on your back now. All right. I'm trying. my brothers. My brothers. Oh, my brothers. Oh, my brother. Oh, my brother. Oh, my brother. Oh my God.
We are still
behind your back
fighting.
now. Right hand behind your back now. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Hey, I said right hand behind your back now. Okay.
For the sake of time and more disgusting video, there was another instance of another angle from that attack where there was a cop also from the passenger side that was absolutely punching him as he was being snatched and pulled around and punched by 2 or 3 other cops from the driver's side, because that's good police work. That's how you arrest someone. Also, that's how you even find out what's going on. Actually, let's find out what was going on. Graphic 1 here, you guys. This body cam footage shows a group of Colorado Springs officers pounding Dalvin Gadsden in his head and face with their fists, leaving him drenched in blood, swollen and bruised. His attorneys say that he received multiple injuries, including black eyes, a ruptured eardrum, and the beating exacerbated his post-traumatic stress disorder. Gadsden was stopped on October 9th in the downtown section of Colorado Springs by Officer Colby Hickman for an improperly displayed license tag. There was no license plates on the back of his car. A GoFundMe profile set up days after by Gadsden states he had been living in his car for 3 to 4 months after becoming homeless. As a way to make money to support himself, he said he worked as a DoorDash delivery person and other odd jobs, and his goal was to make enough to rent out an apartment. On the night in question, a stranger is what he said. Gadsden said this guy named Carlos knocked on his car while he was sleeping and asked him to take him to his job close by for $20. Hickman ordered the veteran to get out of the car and accused him of being under the influence. He said, "You can smell the weed from here," is what another officer says to Hickman. He says, "Is that coming from the car?" And he said, "Yeah." So they suspected him for smoking marijuana, which I believe in Colorado is legal with your medical marijuana card. We'll check all the laws themselves. But you smell the weed, you say, "We're gonna check you out for DUI." He says, "Oh, they said we're gonna arrest you." And he goes, "No, you're not. Time to attack." Here's one of those attackers showing off his the one cut on his right hand, which apparently came through the gloves that they were beating him with. I guess it's a prideful shot because he looks very happy about it. Here's Gadsden. He doesn't look as very happy because he was the one that was attacked as he's recovering there and all those injuries that they outlined. So how about post-attack? How do these cops feel? Afterwards, they leaned, still kneeled on his back, and they had a few choice words for him because, again, this is good police work, right? Watch this.
And the supervisor.
That's what you're saying.
Come on. You're under arrest. You dumb.
Hey. What are you trying to fight to? Bro.
What the are you talking about, man?
Stop it, bro.
You dumb bleep, 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 bleep. And what are you talking about? You don't want to fight us. Well, once someone starts the fight, he has to try and pull away from getting attacked. Lastly, Jackson, I'm gonna let you jump in after this last video because those 2 to 3 to 4 cops that attacked him were pushed to the side as more backup came and they got a chance to rest and trade a few war stories. Listen to one of them talking about how he was ready to shoot and kill him. Watch.
Dude, holy shit.
He just kept going back in.
Yeah, no. Dude, I drew down on him when you were hitting him. I had that left arm. It's like, don't do it, dude.
All in a good day's work for the Colorado Springs police, Jackson. I was gonna draw down on him while you were punching him. Well, good job.
Yeah, well, I mean, clearly this was unnecessary. They had everything on their side to where they didn't have to gang up on him. But as we know, these authoritative institutions target people who really can't defend themselves, whether that be black and brown people in this country or just people who are homeless. I mean, that they were just targeting somebody who was asleep in a car. I've been homeless before. I've slept in cars. I've been in the exact same position that he was in terms of driving DoorDash and sleeping in cars and, in random parking lots. And, I've been pulled over and I've had a case against me for DWI, even though I blew a 0.0 twice. because this guy probably doesn't have any money. And again, I'm not equating, I'm just saying like routinely, I'm sure a lot of people watching this show right now have had run-ins with police officers where they were getting in trouble for something that, had they a lot of money, it wouldn't have even been an issue. Spikes going up under bridges, and homelessness just really being criminalized in general. So it's just a very predatory system that, again, I'm sure a lot of the people here watching have had experience with themselves.
I love you called it predatory. There's anger and violence behind it every turn, man. Imagine if you approach people like humans, the difference in the way that'll happen. By the way, even if he's smoking buckets of weed and he's got some other drug addict in the car with him, does that endorse this type of action? Because he says, what? No, I'm not. He'd be like, listen, just get up, we're gonna talk about it. It's very simple. Speak to him like a human being. Instead it was, okay, here comes some punches to your face by 3 to 4 folks. Let's go to a little bit of entertainment news, but not really entertaining at all. This story's been going on for a little while now, a couple years, but now Megan Thee Stallion is now testifying in this attack on her, these shots that hit her in the foot from Tory Lanez, rapper Tory Lanez. Let's go into this.
Overnight, rap star Megan Thee Stallion taking the stand, testifying against fellow rapper Tory Lanez, who prosecutors say shot Stallion in both of her feet after a party in 2020, describing a heated argument she got into with Lanez and a close friend after leaving a party at Kylie Jenner's house in Los Angeles, which she says led to the shooting. The rapper telling the court Lanez began to immediately apologize, saying, please don't say anything. I'll give you $1 million. I already got caught with a gun, and added, I can't go to jail. I'm on probation.
This whole story that's been going on since 2020 between Tory Lanez and Megan Thee Stallion is now in court. She shared some of the injuries that she did receive and how it affected her, the emotional toll and all that. I think it's many of the things that people have ignored. I guess there's this weird anger and discrimination and hate towards black women rappers, I guess. But she got a chance to talk about how it's affected her. Let's watch.
She was really emotional in court today. She said this story is not just about a shooting. This story is about who I had sex with. You remember yesterday the defense, they were really pitting her against her friend, talking about the fact that they shared intimate partners, multiple intimate partners. She said in court today, I had just done a song with Beyonce. I did something of my dreams and I was shot at. And she said they're calling this the Megan Thee Stallion trial. I am not on trial. I wish he would have killed me. If I knew I would have to go through this torture, I wish he would have killed me.
Approach this story with considering that Megan Thee Stallion is a human being, someone you actually respect and thinks deserves to live and not be shot at. And then if you come with that kind of energy, then pay attention to the way this has been broken down. As a key witness for the prosecution, the Houston rapper, real name Megan Pete, described her account of the night of July 12th of 20, saying on record that the assault was the result of an argument she had with Lanez, whose real name is Daystar Peterson, and Kelsey Harris, who's her former best friend and assistant, while they were driving home from a party. The Grammy winner recounted that she and Peterson had an intimate but not exclusive relationship in 2020, one that Harris, her friend, did not know about at the time. Pete, Megan, knew Harris, Tory Lanez, her friend, had a crush on Tory, so she hid the relationship. When asked specifically why she had not previously revealed the nature of her relationship with Peterson, Pete said she was embarrassed because it's disgusting at this point. How could I share my body with someone who could do this to me? Does this stuff make sense to you guys? Is everyone's hating on her? Let's go on for more. The fight in the vehicle started when Peterson hinted at the relationship to Harris and then tried to pit the two women against each other. Of course, calling them bitches and hoes in the car. Pete testified that after exiting the vehicle for a second time on the drive home, Peterson shouted at her, "Dance, bitch," and fired 5 shots at her from the passenger side, striking her in the feet. So Tory Lanez was arrested on 1 count of carrying a concealed weapon, and Megan Thee Stallion was limping as they got out of the car, and we've seen the footage from the aerial perspective of them walking backwards. First, your thoughts on this as we continue on. We can show a little bit of that footage as we get your reaction, Jackson.
Well, one of the more, kind of negative things about all this is, kind of what Megan pointed out while she was in court is, just the reactions that a lot of the country will give to this. People who otherwise maybe were never paying any attention to Megan Thee Stallion's career or even Tory Lanez. And they just know she's lying and she's a bad image, and this is the problem with society, and men are under attack by women like this. There's huge communities online that think like this, and this goes into the real world. But also, no matter what happens, this is an unnecessary situation. Tory Lanez has a history of being just kind of petty and just anger issues. He's like 5'1", 5'2", so I mean, I'm not even gonna get into that. But again, like stuff like that is real. So he has a history of just kind of being this was a very avoidable situation that he doesn't have to be in had he just had better self-control. So like, I mean, if he goes to jail, that's on him, so.
Yeah, the drama surrounding it all. I mean, a night after partying and whatever, and you're drunk and drinking, and then you do stupid stuff. Sometimes these consequences come at you. And if what she was saying is true, as she said, he's like, please don't let anybody know. That sounds like something someone might say after they do something without thinking about it, because they got a gun in their hand. Like, here, I'm mad about something. Here's some drama. Let's go to graphic 6 though, you guys, because she's concerned just about the way that many of these responses have been. This situation has only been worse for me, and it has only made him more famous, is what Megan said during the morning testimony, because I was shot. I've been turned into some kind of villain, and he's the victim. This has messed up my whole life. This whole situation in the industry is like a big boys club, which I think we could probably take as true with many things. The changeover of the type of folks that are in certain businesses, they're just not accepting of. In fact, even Drake had some lyrics disparaging what she's doing. He says, again, this bitch lied about getting shots, but she's still a stallion. She don't even get the joke, but she's still smiling, of course. So we can see the direction that Drake took there. It's, again, she explained why she lied originally about the relationship with him, and we can see why, because look at the response to it. One more, let's jump down to graphic 9, because one person tweeted about this to point out, and I think this wrapped up the whole thing. She said, when black women come forward about domestic violence, their sexual history is put on trial, not the actions of their abusers. They're deemed whores, deserving of violence from these men. Megan Thee Stallion is another victim of the racist and sexist injustice system that we've got. Hopefully it doesn't pan out that way with this. As long as the truth comes forward. It's not just about jumping to that conclusion, but it seems like what we've seen is what it was. Let's jump to this next story though. It happened over at crypto.com arena. I still call it Staples though, bro. We have a super fan that got into it. Let's go. LA Clippers superfan Daryl Bailey, who's actually better known as Clipper Daryl, he was punched unconscious there. No, that wasn't like a Rockets fan, a group of other folks from another team at Staples Center. Yes, I'm gonna keep calling it that. That was security or employees for the arena. That's odd how that happened. So after that security guy blocked Daryl's path there, you saw him put a forearm again to Daryl's chest, for collarbone, neck, throat area, which then he knocked it away. That's at the point when you should be prepared for a fight once the shoving and back and forth starts happening. But who would assume such a thing would happen to Daryl? Well, so many people actually love this guy. I mean, I guess Clippers fans do. Here's a little bit of who Daryl is.
This is a dream come true, baby. You know what I'm saying? This is fantastic, baby.
Must be kind of hot in that suit though, bro.
Nah, man, I'm so used to wearing it, man. It don't even bother me anymore, man. LeBron who?
Not a LeBron who.
LeBron who? This is LA. Our way, baby. So come on now. This is gonna be a Clippers town. We about to put a dent in it.
If you've been to a Clippers game, you've heard and probably run into Clipper Daryl. He's everywhere and he's fun. I'm sure other teams don't like him though. Crypto.com arena president Lee Zeidman tells us, this is TMZ reporting on this, the altercation all started after the security officer tried to direct Daryl and other departing fans to nearby exits. Clipper Darrell became involved in a verbal and then physical altercation, is what he said. After receiving immediate medical attention, Darrell was transported to a nearby hospital for further evaluation and treatment. Also, an investigation of this incident was launched, which determined the employee's behavior to be a direct violation of our training and approved responses, resulting in the immediate termination and arrest of that employee by the LAPD. Clipper Darrell told us on Wednesday morning he's suffering from headaches though, and he's still in a lot of pain. He added that he's currently on medication to try to alleviate some of those symptoms, maybe from the fall on the floor or running to that garbage can. It was a pretty brutal fall as he hit him square in his chin. So another part about this though, that swift and immediate firing of the security guy, I think he wasn't really sure of who Darrell was, because I mean, you know how LA is. You can't go after certain folks that are known. In fact, this is how known Clipper Darrell is. Even folks like this gave him props. Watch.
No, it was great. You know, I'm going to miss Clipper Darrell. I mean, he's such, his passion and enthusiasm for the game and the constant booing in the night, the cheering, and had a couple moments where I was able to acknowledge him. And Clipper Darrell is just as much as part of this organization. He's been there from the beginning.
Hey, this your boy Clipper Darrell in the building, man. I came all the way down to Fairfax. Baby. Oh my goodness. Oh, hey. If I put this on, man, can I start rapping like you, baby? Can I freestyle? Oh my goodness, man. Hey, this is love out here, baby.
How you gonna hate on Clipper Jayar Jackson? I see your face over there, New York. Was this the next time?
Yeah, man. I mean, that was just unnecessary. I've worked security in plenty of places, and you don't put your hands on people, especially a guy who clearly is not of any type of major threat. So that was uncalled for. That was lame. But I mean, how can you really get mad at somebody like that? You know what I mean? Like,
there's also rules to fighting. I'm not sure how many fights you've been in. I don't get into fights. I'm above that.
I boxed growing up and stuff, so I've been in. I mean, I've fought a lot, but I mean,
so
yeah, man. You don't just beat
at what point of the shoving does the swinging start happening? Because some people see this as like a cheap shot, even though they're face to face. But once one shove happens,
I'm a lot bigger than people, and the security guard was bigger than him, and this guy's older. He could have just like grabbed him and put him on the ground, like not even thrown him. He could have just grabbed him and moved him around a little bit till the dude got the point, like, okay, this guy's a lot stronger than me, I'm gonna stop. Like, you know what I'm saying? But like when you hit people, you could really hurt them, So I mean, I wouldn't have hit him. It wouldn't have been no need. I would have just grabbed him and been like, bruh, stop.
It's obviously not in the training process. Why would you attack someone that's in the arena if you're security? And that's why there's a team of them. There was 4 people surrounding him. There was something else going on. He probably said something about his mama. He was upset. Something was said by Clipper Darrell that got this guy to the point where he's like, I'm just gonna haul off and swing. Because that's
a bad day. He just had a bad day, man. I guess that's all it was. But unfortunately, Clipper Darrell got the bad end.
Maybe he's a Celtics fan. He's just upset about that game because I'm gonna say it again. My Clippers dismantled the best team in the league. Just saying. One more piece though, because I want to show you guys who this guy really was. Clipper Darrell is, and how he became Clipper Darrell. This is an inspiring part of the story for me, Jackson. Clipper Darrell has been featured on several local and national talk shows where he speaks about his fandom. He told HBO's Real Sports in 2020 that rooting for the team became a lifeline for him after he was fired from a job. My boss told me I'd never amount to anything in life, is what he said. You know, you get fired, you feel sorry for yourself. I went home, plopped on the couch, and turned the TV on. The Clipper game comes on. They said the same thing about them, how horrible they were, and how they'd never amount to anything. I said, this is gonna be my team. We're gonna ride and die together. He said this is around 2000, 2001, of course, when they still sucked. And he took off with them. And ever since, he bought season tickets. Not sure how he bought those season tickets. He just lost his job, but he bought season tickets. He's been a season ticket holder since that moment. It's an inspiring story. Don't attack Clipper Darrell, or else you attack all of Clipper Nation. That guy got fired though. I'm curious what you guys have had to say about some of these things we've been going through. I told you guys, jump back on. What do you guys have to say? TYT members, Bills Dragons circles the wagon, says Clipper Darrell is someone that's probably good to see on TV, but not good if you're at the game. Well, not good if you're an opposing fan at the game. He's loud, he's obnoxious, but that's what super fans do. Seth Michael Draginski says, this is why women are scared to report crime. We're talking about Megan Thee Stallion. MTS is a more high profile woman than most. And look at what's happened to her. Imagine being an entirely powerless black woman trying to report a crime committed on you by a rapper who, quote, begs you not to report it while pointing a gun at you. And she's already been shot at this point too. Telly Panda over on Twitch says Clipper has some infectious happy energy. Clipper Daryl, I assume, has some infectious happy energy. C Madrid 80 again on Twitch says security guard probably was mad that he couldn't be a cop. A lot of times I noticed that when I went to SC, every campus police officer this is what I was told at least, either was aspiring to be LAPD or was retired LAPD. Both groups had something to prove. They had their aggression issues at times as well too. I've seen plenty 12, 13, 14, 15-year-olds with bikes flipped upside down outside of the campus because in 4 or 5 of those officers around them, just trying to prove something. I guess there's always something. Mike Boy for mayor says JR is a Clipper fan, LMFAO. I want you to save that Twitch comment until after we win that championship, just saying. Fine, Emily, we're done. Thanks, Jackson, for being here with us on the Watch This for Thursday. Again, thank you guys also for being with us as well. Up next, you got John Idle with the damage report. Go check him out. We'll see you guys tomorrow for a Friday to wrap up this week. It's gonna be fun. We'll see you guys tomorrow.